What's important now is that the international community needs to show its solidarity with Israel. We have Israel's back fully as the United States. And the condemnation of Hamas needs to continue.
The deputy U.S. ambassador to the United Nations called for more support for Israel from the rest of the world. This as world leaders gathered in New York yesterday for a closed-door emergency meeting of the Security Council. Members met for 90 minutes but failed to reach a consensus. Meanwhile, the U.S. sent warships and planes to the region in a show of force. CBC's Chris Reyes is at the UN. Chris, we saw there the U.S. once again asking the world to condemn Hamas and stand by Israel, but no consensus reached. So what happened in that closed-door session?
Yeah, no consensus reached is a good place to start. Good morning, Natasha. So right now, the Security Council is actually in session, but they're not talking about this issue. They are talking about Ukraine. It's a scheduled session. But yesterday was an emergency meeting, closed-door session. And what did not come out of that meeting was any kind of consensus condemning Hamas. There was no resolution. There was no statement. So the U.S., which is a permanent member of the Security Council, didn't get what they asked for. We did hear from the Chinese ambassador as he went into the meeting, condemning the attacks, condemning the violence against civilians, but not speaking to Hamas specifically. We did hear from the UAE ambassador after the meeting, and she said that what council members got in that session was a sobering briefing from the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Tor Westland. And they also agreed on one thing, and that is that council members must call for calm and de-escalation in the region, and that they need to use all of the diplomatic channels available to them to get that accomplished. Now, before the meeting, we did hear from the Israeli and Palestinian representatives to the UN, with the Palestinian envoy speaking first. Have a listen to what he said.
Where is the international protection the Palestinian people is entitled to when the occupying power violates international law and harms those it is obliged to protect? Aren't Palestinians' lives worth saving?
Hamas's war crimes must be unequivocally condemned. This unimaginable atrocity must be condemned. Israel must be given steadfast support to defend ourselves, to defend the free world.
Now, that was an impassioned speech. The Israeli ambassador speaking for more than 20 minutes, calling what happened over the weekend Israelis 9/11. Now, Iran's mission to the UN also issued a statement given the questions about their involvement in this attack. That statement reads, "We emphatically stand in unflinching support of Palestine. However, we are not involved in Palestine's response as it is taken solely by Palestine itself."
In the meantime, there's been plenty of reaction in Washington. What are you hearing from that location?
That's right, Natasha. Some fresh statement this morning from a spokesperson from the State Department, the U.S. State Department. And he said a few things. The first is that the U.S. currently, they don't have any direct intelligence that Iran was involved in this attack. But given that country's support of Hamas, they will continue to hold Iran accountable. But the main focus of the U.S., according to the spokesperson, is, of course, to get more information around the Israeli and American citizens being held hostage. He also confirmed that 9 Americans have been killed in the attacks. That's up from 4 previously reported. They're also offering support to the family members caught in the middle, desperate for information about their family members. And this spokesperson said they're prepared for the worst. Have a listen to what he said.
We suspect some of them may unfortunately turn out to be deceased, but we will work on that with the government of Israel in the coming days. We cannot confirm that at this point. There are reports of that, but there are Americans who are unaccounted for, and our first priority is to locate those Americans, find out what their status is in the coming hours and days.
And Natasha, as you already mentioned, the U.S. sending warships to the area, sending weapons as well. President Biden over the weekend said he spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu, telling him that military assistance is on the way with more to come. We also heard from Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and he said the U.S. will also be investigating whether the surprise attacks was a failure of intelligence.
CBC's Chris Reyes at the UN in New York. Thank you.